The Galactic Council chamber was filled with the usual hum of voices, a mix of languages from dozens of species. At the center of the room, one voice rose above the others, tinged with incredulity. Humans are afraid of war? The representative of the Rixians, a race known for their militaristic culture, shook his head, his scales catching the dim light. The other council members murmured their agreement, their expressions equally puzzled. They have avoided conflict in nearly every major galactic confrontation, another voice added. It came from the other envoy, a species known for their brutal efficiency in combat. They negotiate, they send aid, but they never fight. It's as if they fear the very concept of battle. Perhaps they are simply too weak, suggested the Grathan representative. His voice dripped with disdain. A fragile species, unfit for the harsh realities of the galaxy. Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Galactic Council had seen countless species rise and fall through war, and yet humanity remained elusive in this arena. They had sent emissaries to peace talks, offered resources for rebuilding, but had never once led a fleet into battle. The Council had long since dismissed them as inconsequential. At the far end of the room, a human ambassador sat quietly, his face impassive. He had heard the same discussions before. The same underestimation, the same misjudgment. It never ceased to amuse him how little they truly understood. Ambassador, the Rixian representative addressed him directly now, why is it that your kind has such an aversion to war? Do you fear conflict that much? The human ambassador smiled faintly. His gaze moved slowly around the room, taking in the array of warriors and strategists from across the galaxy, each one more confident than the last in their species' superiority. We don't fear war, he said calmly, his voice steady. We just don't see it as the most efficient way to resolve problems. There was a brief pause, and then the room erupted in laughter. It was a sound the human had grown accustomed to in these halls. The notion that humans, with their short history of interstellar engagement, could lecture on the efficiency of conflict was, to them, absurd. You claim efficiency, yet your kind has not fought a single war in decades, the other representative scoffed. What would you know of battle? The human ambassador's expression remained unchanged. You misunderstand. It's not that we don't know war. It's that we know it too well. Silence fell over the chamber, the sudden weight of his words unsettling. The council members shifted in their seats, some intrigued, others skeptical. Centuries ago, on Earth, the ambassador continued, there were warriors who perfected the art of avoiding open conflict. They could end battles before they began, using stealth, precision, and intelligence. They understood that a war doesn't need to be fought head-on to be won. And what relevance does this have here? The Grathan representative leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that your primitive warriors could match our elite forces? The human ambassador's eyes glinted for a moment, the faintest trace of something unspoken passing behind them. Perhaps you'll see soon enough. The chamber was silent for a moment, the weight of the human ambassador's words hanging in the air. The Rixian representative broke the tension with a dismissive wave. Bold words, human, but words alone don't win wars. Let's put your claims to the test. Several members nodded in agreement, their confidence in the prowess of their species unshaken. The Grathan, always eager for a challenge, leaned forward with a smirk. We propose a simulation. A controlled battlefield, where your kind can face our best soldiers. Let's see if your efficiency holds up against real warriors. The human ambassador met the Grathan's gaze without hesitation. We accept. The council members exchanged surprised glances. They had expected hesitation, perhaps even an attempt to avoid the challenge. But the ambassador's calm acceptance intrigued them. The Rixian representative quickly took charge, outlining the parameters of the simulation. You will face the finest warriors from the Council's most powerful species. Each of them equipped with their most advanced weapons, battle-hardened from countless campaigns. The arena will replicate a real combat environment, urban landscapes, open fields, hazardous terrains. It will be a test of raw skill, strategy, and endurance. The human listened carefully but remained expressionless. The other council members were already envisioning a swift victory. Humanity, with its reliance on diplomacy and avoidance of direct combat, could not possibly stand against the might of the galaxy's most feared warriors. "When does this take place?" the ambassador asked simply. "Within 2 galactic cycles," the other representative replied. "We will provide the location and necessary preparations. You may bring any soldiers or technology you deem fit for the challenge." "Not necessary," the ambassador replied, drawing a few raised eyebrows. "You think you'll win without advanced weaponry?" The Grathan's amusement was palpable. "This will be entertaining." The humans left the council chamber soon after, and as the doors closed behind them, the other representatives returned to their discussions, speculating on how quickly the humans would fall. Most predicted the entire simulation would be over in mere hours. Back on Earth, preparations began in secret. But contrary to the Council's expectations, humanity did not gather battalions or fleets of armored soldiers. Instead, a small, specialized team was assembled in the shadows. The chosen few were not equipped with heavy artillery or advanced tech. They wore no armor, carried no cumbersome weapons. Their tools were simple: blades, ropes, smoke. They were the last remnants of an ancient tradition, a lineage of warriors whose skills had been passed down quietly through the centuries. Ninjas. Masters of stealth, precision, and psychological warfare. Their existence had become little more than legend, a forgotten page in the history of Earth. But in the hands of this team, the old ways were very much alive. As the Council awaited humanity's arrival for the simulation, whispers spread about the peculiar nature of the human preparations. Rumors circulated that the humans weren't sending traditional soldiers at all. Some thought it was a desperate attempt to salvage a fight they couldn't win. Others believed it was a bluff. When the day arrived, the other species presented their champions in full battle regalia, heavy armor, energy shields, advanced weaponry. Their confidence was unshaken. But when the human team appeared, they were greeted with confusion. There were no soldiers clad in exosuits, no towering mechs, no high-tech gear. Instead, a small group of humans stood before them, dressed in dark, minimal attire, their faces partially concealed. They looked out of place, almost comically underprepared. "This is who you send?" the Rixian representative sneered. "You expect these unarmed warriors to stand against our elite?" The human ambassador, who had returned to witness the event, simply smiled. "We don't need to stand against you. We only need to finish it." The council members scoffed, ready to witness what they believed would be a quick and decisive defeat. What they didn't realize was that the battle had already begun. The simulation began with a flash, the arena transforming into a battlefield. Alien warriors, fully armed, surged forward, confident in their strength and technology. The council watched from above, expecting swift victory. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The human warriors, those strange, under-equipped figures, vanished into the environment as though they had never been there. The alien soldiers spread out, scanning the terrain for any sign of movement, weapons at the ready. Minutes passed, and confusion began to set in among the alien ranks. There was no sign of the humans. The first wave of Grathan soldiers, known for their brute strength, moved cautiously into the urban section of the arena. They saw nothing, heard nothing. Then, without warning, one of them dropped to the ground. No one had seen the strike, but the warrior was down, a single, clean cut across the neck. The others hesitated, scanning the area, but again, nothing. The shadows seemed to swallow everything. The council members leaned forward, eyes narrowing. One fallen soldier could be a mistake, but soon another went down, then another. The Grathan forces were confused, their technology offering no help. The enemy was invisible, silent. The laughter and mockery that had filled the council chamber earlier were gone, replaced with quiet uncertainty. Rixian sharpshooters moved into position, attempting to flush the humans out with superior firepower. They set up in elevated positions, weapons trained on every possible angle. For a moment, it seemed like a sound strategy. Then, in an instant, two of them were eliminated, no sound, no flash. 1 second they were there, the next they were gone. Panic began to ripple through the alien forces. The battlefield, once dominated by strength and firepower, was now a death trap. Every step, every movement, felt like walking into an unseen danger. The alien warriors, no matter how advanced their weaponry, were completely blind to the threat. They're hiding, one council member whispered, disbelief edging their voice. The human ambassador watched the chaos unfold, expression calm. They're not hiding, he replied softly. They're hunting. As more alien champions fell, fear began to take hold. The battlefield was now a maze of traps and shadows. One moment, a group of heavily armed other soldiers was advancing, the next, their ranks were torn apart by unseen hands. Smoke filled the air, obscuring vision, and in the disorienting haze, the alien forces broke formation. The ninjas moved like ghosts, striking only when necessary, retreating before any retaliation could be made. Alien warriors shot blindly into the dark, their advanced targeting systems failing to locate even a single human. Every sound became a potential threat, every shadow a possible ambush. Their technology, which had always given them an edge in combat, was rendered useless. In a matter of hours, what had begun as a confident assault had devolved into a desperate scramble for survival. The Grathans, once mocking, were now retreating, trying to regroup. The other champions, previously known for their relentless assault, were scattered, unsure where to strike or how to defend themselves. One particularly renowned alien commander, a warrior who had never tasted defeat, found himself alone. His armor, designed to withstand any frontal attack, was worthless against the silent approach of the human ninjas. He felt a brief moment of sharp pain, and then everything went dark. The council watched in disbelief as their elite forces were dismantled, not through overwhelming power, but through precision. The humans were nowhere and everywhere at once, leaving no trace except for the steadily increasing count of fallen alien soldiers. By the time the final alien team surrendered, there was no doubt left. The battlefield had been won not by brute strength or superior firepower, but by something far more terrifying, unseen mastery. The aftermath of the battle left the Galactic Council in stunned silence. Their most powerful warriors, those considered unbeatable in open conflict, had been brought down by a handful of human operatives, none of whom had fired a single shot in the conventional sense. The arena, once filled with the thunderous sounds of alien weaponry, now lay still, the bodies of defeated champions scattered across it. The Rixian representative, once so sure of his race's dominance, sat frozen, unable to comprehend how their strength had failed so completely. The other, who had mocked humanity's aversion to combat, looked shaken, their collective pride crushed by the sheer efficiency of the human victory. The human ambassador stood, a slight smile touching his lips as he addressed the council. You asked why we avoid war. Now you have your answer. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle over the room. The council members were forced to reckon with a truth they had long refused to see. Humanity hadn't avoided war out of fear. They had evolved past the need for it, understanding its true cost in ways the other species couldn't begin to grasp. We are not warriors by choice, the ambassador continued. We have fought wars, countless ones, on our home planet, and we've learned from them. We learned that open conflict is often the least efficient path to victory. Brute force may win battles, but it rarely wins wars. The Grathan representative, still in shock from the loss of his elite soldiers, stammered, but, how? You didn't engage us directly. You didn't face us in open combat. Because we didn't need to, the ambassador replied simply. War, as you know it, is outdated. Our warriors mastered a different kind of combat long before we ever reached the stars. Stealth. Precision. Psychological tactics. The true measure of a warrior is not just in their ability to fight, but in their ability to end a fight before it begins. A murmur spread through the council chamber. The reality of what had happened was sinking in. Humanity had taken their challenge and redefined the rules, not through arrogance or bluster, but through cold, calculated efficiency. They had won a battle without engaging in the kind of war the Council had expected. And in doing so, they had shown a side of humanity that no one had anticipated. The other representative, his pride bruised, managed to find his voice. "But you could have destroyed us. Why didn't you?" The ambassador's smile faded, replaced by something more serious, almost sorrowful. "We know the consequences of total destruction. We've lived through it. We understand that the greatest victory is not in obliterating your enemy, but in leaving them with a lesson they'll never forget." The council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had been prepared to fight against a species they believed was weak and fearful. What they had encountered instead was a force that understood the depths of war far better than they did, a force that knew how to wield restraint as power. "You fear war because it is all you know," the ambassador said, his voice calm but firm. "We fear war because we know it too well. But do not mistake that fear for weakness. It is the understanding of war's true nature that gives us strength." The silence in the chamber deepened. There was no more laughter, no more mockery. The alien representatives, once so sure of their superiority, now felt the weight of their own ignorance. They had underestimated humanity, not because humans were incapable of war, but because they were capable of something far more dangerous, ending it before it could even begin. As the human ambassador turned to leave, he offered a final word of advice. "Next time you question why we choose peace over conflict, remember this: it's not because we can't fight. It's because we know when not to." With that, he left the chamber, leaving the council to sit in stunned contemplation, the lesson sinking in deeper than any weapon could have ever driven it.